Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Instagram for Dentists. We're going to be talking all about Instagram stories today. Instagram stories was the response to the huge success of Snapchat. Instagram was losing loads and loads of users and time to Snapchat, and that's going to affect the bottom line a lot. So they introduced Instagram stories as a way to hit back and get those users back on the platform. And since they've become a thing, stories have taken on a life of their own. We can now do some really cool things with Instagram stories, such as using polls, stickers to get questions. You can get GIFs on there. There's the swipe up feature to send it to links. We can send people to IGTV videos. Got all sorts of sliders. We can use Instagram music. So there's a lot of features there and so many creative options. So it's become a really powerful tool. And if your Instagram feed is a little bit more curated, you might have used Photoshop and Lightroom to tidy up the photos and make them look perfect and a little bit more of a pop when people see them, so it really grabs the eye and attention. Then Instagram stories is where you can actually be a little bit more raw and ready, a little bit less heavily produced, although I wouldn't completely get rid of the production value. So how can we use Instagram stories to really improve our connection with our audiences, improve that engagement rate on our actual posts, get people messaging you and actioning on things that you want them to action upon? How can we make it more effective for whatever your goal is? As a dentist, you're probably wanting your viewers to either share your posts so more and more potential patients can see it, or to even come in and see you as a new patient. I do feel that stories are heavily misused, and we can definitely find some ways to up our game. Part of the problem is they only last 24 hours, so it does give people that feeling of not wanting to put in too much effort because it's just going to be gone anyway. However, we can now put things on highlights, and that's a really good way of bolstering your Instagram profile. So when someone lands on your page, they can click through the highlights, they can look at your first 9 posts or whatever, and they can get a bit more of a feel to who you are, what you do, and what you're good at, and what kind of a person you are. Something that I do see quite often, I'm probably a little guilty of this myself, is using Instagram stories like we might have used Snapchat back in the day, just to throw up random bits of information of things that we're doing through the day, throwing up some food and or something funny that the pet's done, and it doesn't create any sort of huge amount of value if you've got a specific goal in mind. For example, at the moment, especially through the COVID period, people have been going heavy and hard on the tag a friend XYZ, and whilst they are fun on a personal account, maybe not the best thing to do on a professional account if you've got a strong goal in mind where you're trying to get patients or referrals or something along those lines. So my thoughts are to do exactly what it says on the tin and tell a story. But in fact, doing this isn't as easy as you might think. You do need to plan ahead a little bit so you can think about how that story is going to unfold throughout the day. You want a beginning, a middle, and an end. You might want to create some sort of conflict and then resolve it. You might also want to show some form of a journey, whether that's an actual journey or something else, some way you can see some progression. And as I said before, part of the problem that I think we come up against as people who have an end goal on Instagram is that there is too much randomness within stories. So if you click through someone's story, it's going to be a random collection of events, because I think it is the root cause of the issue that people are having. So planning an Instagram story, if you're getting up in the morning, have a little think. Are you going to do a cinematic sort of sequence? What are the things that you've got planned in your day? Can you kind of show a bit of your day? Or maybe you can show before and after. That goes down quite well for some people. There's definitely a way you can do this that fits in with your life and your routine that isn't too taxing. It might take a while for you to get it down, but is definitely a way for everyone to be doing this. I also wouldn't go out there and just completely copy something someone else is doing, because it will feel inauthentic. You need to find your own voice and your own style and way of doing these things so that when you get a patient, for example, come and see you, there's not a disconnect between who you are online and who you are in the surgery. You kind of want to have that same sort of vibe across the both platforms and the actual real life surgery. Don't forget, all of social media, if you have a goal, and I'm going to keep on kind of reiterating that, if you have a goal, is to create a strong connection between you and the audience. And the best way to do that is to really think about what you're doing, try and create that emotional attachment. You're going to maybe have to do one-on-one interactions as well. So you want things people are going to respond to, people are going to reply to, people are going to react to. And that is really important. Finding a way for people to have an emotional reaction with the content you're putting up on the story, so that when you call for them to do something, when you action something, whether it is buy something, whether it's come and see you for an appointment, whether it is send you a referral, they're more enticing, or they've got more of a, at that point, they're going to have more of an affinity with you, and they're more likely to do that. One of the ways you could do this is to ask a question whilst you're telling this story, so that people can react to that and think and then respond. And there are so many features Instagram has given you that will allow you to do this in some way. You'll see that on my stories, I use a lot of the polls, even if it's just an either or. I quite like using them because it gives people something fun to think about. And once they've clicked one of the options, if I have the time and I think I've got something to say, I could quite easily comment on which way that they've voted. It'll create a little bit of rapport and something that you can then fall back on, because you've made that connection if you then ask them something about themselves or ask them to do something. And the hardest part of all this advice today is to do all of these things while still adhering to a long-term goal and vision, starting with the end in mind basically, and also always increasing the quality of the visual and audio output that you're putting out there. People really do notice these things. So that's really it for today, guys. A couple of general pointers and thoughts that I think are going to be helpful. Hopefully you guys have taken that on board and you can build upon the last couple of episodes. Let me know what you guys think. Send me your ideas for stories and I'll see what I think, and maybe we can have a little conversation around those. If there's something really interesting that I've not thought of, then I might mention it on one of my future videos. And also a huge thank you to the guys in the Patreon group who have been supporting me through this whole COVID period. We're now up to, I think, the 4th member. I'm trying to get to 10 by the end of October. So guys, please do head over to the Patreon group and join up if you think it's for you. Get a whole host of really cool features and perks. We've got a dedicated server on Discord with some really cool dentists. Also, I'll be giving one-on-one tutorials for the guys who are in the middle and upper tiers on the Patreon. And that's one-on-one Instagram growth tutorials. We'll go through your profile, give you some ideas about what I think might work for you in your situation. And then I'll come back in a couple of months after you've actioned those things and see how it's worked and then tweak things. I think it's really useful for you guys to have someone from the outside looking in, seeing what you are missing, because when you're deep into it, working hard and also trying to throw out the content, you maybe aren't thinking things through as well as you could. So I can help you guys out there for sure. So definitely head over to the link in the description below the video and see if Patreon is for you.